Today we're going to have a very candid conversation about some of the stupid shit that I hear as a one and done mom. I've also collected some responses from one and done moms on Instagram, some things that they've heard some things that I haven't. And if you're a one and done mom, this is probably gonna make you laugh a little bit and maybe a little angry. And let's all just remember that we don't actually care what they think. This is just for fun and laughs. And if you've ever said these things to a mother, don't do that again. First one, and my favorite, the hill that I will personally die on, is when they say that 2 is easier than 1. You've got to be fucking kidding me. That is bullshit. I don't believe you for a second. 2 people is 2 people. That's 2 morning times, which stress me out. That's 2 lunch times. That's 2 bedtimes. That's 2 kids. Hi. Going through sleep regressions. Can you sit over here? Do you want to be in the video too? Anyway, this is my second born, if anybody's curious. 2 kids struggling with sleep. Like, imagine being woken up in the middle of the night by 2 kids instead of 1. I could not. They say your breathing is probably bothering people. Can you go away? Come on, out of here. They say that they play together and that makes it easier, which in some ways I can understand that you get a tiny little break if they play together. But my kid played alone in her room for an hour today unprompted. So your argument is void. Better 0 than 1. Okay, thank you for completely invalidating my child's life. Cool of you to do. Do you realize that you did that in saying that to me? My child matters, her life matters. No, it's not better 0 than 1, because 0 means that the kid that I have and love and raised and grew in my body doesn't matter. That's a weird thing to say to someone. It's selfish not to give them a sibling. They need a playmate. Okay, first of all, a human's not a gift. Okay, and if you're creating a person just so that they can be a playmate to another person, that's an awful reason to make a person. I think that creating an entire human being to give your child a sibling is a disgusting thing to do. I think it's awful. If you are like on the fence about wanting another kid, and the only reason you want to have another kid is to give your current child a sibling, don't have another kid. Because imagine being a child that was birthed into the world. It wasn't their choice to be here. They're only here to be a playmate for your first kid, so that you can go and have a break and they can play together. That's a weird thing to do. They'll be alone when they're older. Okay, so this is where we talk about my family structure, okay, for anyone that's curious, because it's a weird one, but I know what it's like to be an only child, and I know what it's like to have siblings. Between my 2 parents, I am an only child. I'm the only child that they had together. I was an accident. They were just messing around. Should not have happened, and here I show up, right? My mom had a daughter already, and my dad had a son and a daughter already. Were not in the home with me growing up. My older sister was until I was 6 with me and my mom. So I guess there was somebody there with me until I was about 6 years old. I have no memories of that. I do not remember her being in the home. She was there. But from 6 until 18, I was an only child in my home, and every other weekend I went to my siblings' houses, okay? I have siblings that I do not have relationships with. They live in the Seattle area. I live on the Olympic Peninsula. I see them once or twice a year. We don't communicate. We're like not even really siblings. They're more like my cousins, kind of, I guess. I don't feel lonely or alone in my life. Do you want to know why? Because I got married. I have a husband. I have friends. I have my own child. It's not on my siblings. It is not my siblings' responsibility to keep me from being lonely, okay? And if my daughter had a sibling, I would not expect them to spend time together, to be best of friends. And I think there's this expectation that people have when they have children that their kids are gonna love each other and be the best of friends. And that's just not the case. And a lot of family members grow up and then one moves to another state and one moves over here. My mom has 2 siblings. One of them lives in Colorado and can't stop doing drugs and nobody talks to her. They all hate her. The other one lives in California and I see him like once every 2 years. My mom is not lonely because her siblings aren't around. Okay? That's another completely invalid comment. Okay. This is kind of a similar, on the similar theme when they say that your only child will have to be the only person taking care of you when you're older and the only person like dealing with things after you and your husband die. I watched my mom go through this, and guess who was in charge of everything? My mother. Why? Because one of them is off doing drugs somewhere and the other one doesn't live here. He lives in California. He has 3 of his own children. We live here in Washington State. My grandparents lived in Washington State. So when my grandpa died and when my grandma died, my mom was responsible for everything. Brother and sister showed up for the funeral. My mom took care of them as they died, was responsible for that care, and was responsible for end of life. She has 2 siblings. Only children are selfish. There's a reason that somebody becomes selfish, and it has nothing to do with how much they are given as a child. This is my own personal theory. I think that a person becomes selfish when they are denied emotional or physical needs in childhood, and so they feel like they have to like rip it out of the universe from other people to get their needs met. I think that a person becomes selfish when their needs are not met. And I think a lot of the time, somebody's needs are not met more often when they have a bunch of siblings. If my kid's emotional needs are met by me and her father and her friends and her cousin that she sees a few times a week, I think she's gonna be really close with her cousin, which I'm very, very happy about. If I make sure that I meet my one child's emotional needs, she will be able to go out into the world as an emotionally secure person. I have trauma, my husband has trauma, he's anxiously attached, I'm avoidantly attached, and we both have siblings, okay? I really do think that the more you give your child, the more they feel safe. And if they feel safe, they don't feel like they have to like beg the world to love them. And selfishness, I think, is a form of like seeking love and validation from the world. But that's just my own theory. I don't know. A lot of people say like one is basically none. And this is parents of multiple children, which also kind of validates to me that I'm on the right track, because when they say one is none, what they're saying is your life is so stressful with your 2 or 3 or 4 kids. When you're only with one of your kids, it feels so easy and like you have no kids, okay? So to me, that sounds like I should probably stick with one. Thank you very much. But also one is a lot of work. That's why I only am having one. One of the responses that I got from a follower said, you don't know love until you had a boy. I have never heard anybody say this, but that's the craziest thing I've ever heard, because being loved by a little girl is the sweetest, most beautiful form of love I've ever felt in my entire life. Thank you. When somebody says, I thought I was done too, but now I have 4 or something like that, that's great. I'm happy for you that you changed your mind. I will not be changing my mind. And that's a really weird way of saying that my choice is not valid. One that I'm going to kind of talk about in depth here is having one is selfish. I have an entire video on this. If I remember, I will link it in the cards. If not, I'll try to put it in the description. I'm always really bad about remembering that I've said that in a video. But you can also go look at it on my page because I don't have that many videos. Having one child is probably one of the most selfless things a person can do, because I also have a video about how I often feel like I do want another child. There's part of me that really does want to experience all of those things again, and I'm choosing not to because I know that an only child situation is the best thing for my family and the people inside my family, and the best thing for me so that I can be a present, loving, caring mother that's not overwhelmed and overstimulated and ragey all the time and losing my shit on everybody around me, because that is who I would be if I had a second kid. I don't want to be like that. I want to be a good mother, and in order for me to be a good mother, I'm sticking with one kid. I think a lot of people who choose to only have one kid think very deeply about it, and they worry that they're being selfish. A helicopter is so far away, but it is so loud. It's not selfish to do what's best for your family. I think it's selfish sometimes to have another one because you want the baby phase again. You want to be pregnant again. You want the pregnancy announcement and the gender reveal, and you want to go through all of that again. It's such a fun, exciting time in your life. But I think that some people just want that and then just want a baby. And then once they have the 2 kids, they're like, shit, I'm really stressed right now. And only children don't know how to socialize. This one doesn't make any sense to me, especially if you're saying this in the United States, because they're all in daycare. Nobody can afford to be a stay-at-home mom. And if you are a stay-at-home mom, you probably have more than one kid. Maternity leave doesn't exist, and no one can afford to do it. So they're popping their kids into daycare 3 months old at the latest, probably 8 hours a day, 5 days a week with other kids. That's socializing. There's a lot of socializing happening at daycare, and then preschool, and then school, and then you're probably putting them in sports, in activities, because you have the financial and mental capacity to put your kid in all the activities that they want to do because you only have one. I ripped my paper. Oh my God. But yeah, if you've heard any of these, if you've heard worse, I would love to know. Put them down in the comments. Let's talk about it. Have some solidarity and connection happening in my comment section, because I want one and done moms to know that they're making the right decision and that they're not doing anything wrong and that they're not ruining their child's life. And that's why I make this content, because there's one and done moms out there who are like, I feel like I have to have another one. The whole world's telling me to have another one. And if you go out and have another one and you don't want to, I feel badly about that. And I don't want that for you. I want you to enjoy your life as a one and done mom. And I want moms on the fence to know that you don't have to have another one. You don't, and you don't have to feel bad about it. You don't have to go out and get pregnant with a second kid because the world is telling you that you have to have at least 2 kids. You don't. You can have just the one, and it's all gonna be okay. Your kid's gonna be fine. Everybody's gonna be happy. There are plenty of only children that are happy. I was basically an only child, and all of the things that people say to me about what it's like being an only child doesn't even ring true to me, because I hated my siblings. Like every other weekend when I had to go be with my siblings, it was the worst thing ever. Like they were awful to me. I have more trauma from those people than I do being an only child. I can tell you that for certain. It just breaks my heart. It breaks my heart that there's such a stigma around it for the moms, but also for the kids, because people who are raised in an only child situation don't deserve to be stigmatized in that way. So let's stop doing that, and let's give everybody a little bit of grace and say, have as many kids as you want and can afford mentally and financially and physically. Love you.